All right, we got our car's value down. We have our depreciation, our 3-year depreciation rate down. Let's talk about exponential decay. That's the situation we have. Losing value by a certain percentage every single year is what happens to cars after we buy them. We are going to be using y equals a times 1 minus r to the t, or to the x. A is the initial value, r is an annual depreciation rate, and then x is the years after this occurred. Now, the first thing we have to do is calculate like our annual depreciation rate. We are going to approximate this rate by taking your 3-year depreciation rate and dividing it by 3. Okay, so whatever your 3-year depreciation rate was, go ahead and just divide that by 3. And mine is 0.083, or like 8.3%. We want to round to the third decimal place for this. It doesn't have to be exact, so I'm just going to say my depreciation rate is 0.083. Again, this is a decimal, not a percentage, but that would be considering an 8.3% depreciation. Okay? Now, we are going to use Desmos, and we're going to graph our situation. This is where it's kind of up to you a little bit. Okay? Y equals your initial value, whatever it is. I'm going to use an example of a $11,000. Actually, I'll use my example. My car's price was $137,060. That's a lot of money for a car. I would never pay that much for a car. And my R, my annual depreciation rate is 0.083. So I'm going to say this is times 1 minus 0.083. To the, use the caret, so shift 6 to get up, or you could find a button for that, but I use the caret, which is shift 6, and then X. Now, what's the first thing we see? Where's my graph? We need to be able to understand how, like, you're not going to see it because the initial value when year is 0 is 137,000. You need to adjust your x-axis and your y-axis so that we can see the graph. That means like you need to go above your initial value. Whatever your initial value is, go a little bit above it. I'm going to go up to like 140,000, maybe like 150,000. 150,000. And all of a sudden, I start seeing my graph. Okay? Now, maybe I want to look a little bit more to the right so I can see after 5. Now, here we go. We have our graph. We can see it. Now, you can click on your graph to see points on your graph, but you got to understand what this means. Y would be the value of your car. X is the amount of years you've had the car. So if you click, you can see like, oh, after 4.64 years, the value of my car is worth $91,689. Okay, this is kind of like our start. We are now going to use x equals and y equals equations to answer certain questions, and this is where I'm going to leave it up to you to figure it out. Sometimes we want to plug in an x equals and kind of find a certain y value based on a certain x value. Sometimes we are going to want to figure out certain intersections where we have a specific y value. But we're going to graph x equals and y equals, and that way we can click on the intersections and get exact answers. It is up to you to figure out which ones to plug in, which ones to find. You may have to zoom in, you may have to zoom out. I might have to adjust my scale to be like, I might have to go to like 30 years. I might have to use less, maybe just 15 years. It's all up to you starting now. But you're gonna have to answer the following questions. If you've had the car for 4 years and you need to sell it, we're gonna start living by ourselves. We're gonna need some funds for our apartment. If you've had your car for 4 years, how much is it gonna be worth? You're gonna take that answer, you're gonna type it in, you're gonna round to 2 decimal places. This is not an approximation. I need the exact answer. So maybe you gotta shift this and put 2 in for y, or maybe you need to put 2 in for x. And you could literally just type in 2 for X, or you could type in 2 for Y, figure out which one to do, okay? If it's going to be 8 years, okay, which one do you want? And which intersection do you want? Do you want the intersection at 2 for X or the intersection for 2 for Y? How many years would it take for your car to be worth half of its value? We want a very specific number for half the value, so you might have to take your value, divide it by 2. So half the value, does that mean you want to put 68,532.5 in for X and find that intersection? Or do you want to put 68,532 in for Y? Okay, and find that intersection and interpret what that means. Now, our goal is to answer these 3 or 4 questions on every single situation, like values and time is what we're asking for. But we want you to have all of them up because we're going to take a picture of them. I'm going to explain that on the next video. So go into reading the questions. You want to sell it after 4 years. You want to sell it after 8 years. How many years for the car to be worth half its value? How many years would it take for the car to be worth $5,000 when it's like, okay, I got to sell this? Cool? Good luck.